the deepest threat in human terms posed by the age of AI is that we will confuse virtual community and connection with the real thing. And that would represent a great loss.
How to fight with the trend or deal with the trend? It seems unstoppable.
You think it seems unstoppable?
It seems, yeah. I'm not sure.
Why? Well, it's worth asking, in figuring out how to stop it, it's worth asking why it seems unstoppable. Why do you think?
Because too less true debate and, discussion about it. Most people just follow the trend.
Right.
Yeah.
But if I could feel and believe the connection I have through my phone, scrolling and swiping and texting and posting, that connection to people half a world away is the same as valuable as my personal connections to family, friends, neighbors, classmates.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I don't know.
Why would that represent a loss, I guess is what I'm asking. Why would that represent a loss?
Yeah. I'm curious about you because, my phone.
Yeah.
It's the most intimate things we have. We touch
intimate.
Very intimate.
Right.
You spend more time with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even through the social media, you talk with so many people. I think sometimes, even most time, because friends live different places, we through it, but still feel kind of very intimate.
Yeah.
The similar with me.
Intimate.
Face to face.
Right.
So it's a new community. But I'm not so sure about it's less important than the more concrete communities before or the similar. I'm so confused about it. So how to understand it, the change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this question. Since we're talking about intimacy.
Yeah.
Intimacy is an important aspect of this.
Yeah.
There are now AI-equipped devices, little robots, that you can buy. Let's say you have an aged parent or grandparent who's living alone, maybe in a nursing home, and who's lonely. And you visit them from time to time, but you can't be there every day. You can buy one of these robotic companions, and the robotic companion will carry on a conversation with your loved one, your grandmother, let's say. And let's suppose that your grandmother comes to regard that robotic AI-driven companion as a friend, as an actual friend, sharing intimacies, asking advice. And suppose that this relieves the loneliness of your grandmother and makes her happier. She considers this her friend. Would that bother you, or would you welcome that?
Welcome.
You would welcome it?
It doesn't bother me. Yeah.
It doesn't bother you at all?
Maybe not at all, maybe a little, but I accept it.
You would accept it, but what's the little that bothers?
Maybe just because it's a new thing and needs some time and space to understand it, accept it.
But if you are this goes back to what we were discussing about the virtual and the actual and the real. Now, your grandmother no longer recognizes, we're assuming, the difference between a robotic friend and an actual friend. That doesn't bother you. Do you think there's a loss?
I think the new friend, the toy, is friend of her. Because some books are for friends, even it's just papers.
Books.
Yeah.
So if the grandmother or if you or I were absorbed in a book.
Yeah, even we see some old books, it's like friends, yeah. It's spent many, maybe childhood years with you.
And, well, I agree that a book can be a friend and a source of, I would say, genuine companionship. But does it matter that when I'm reading a book and absorbed in a book, I'm engaged in a kind of exchange with, a kind of dialogue with the human author of that book? Whereas when your grandmother is spending her day conversing with the robot, she isn't.
We talk about Socrates, Plato, even it's 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Still can be your friend.
Yes.
So why not the toy?
Why not the toy?
Yeah, why not?
Because it's a machine.
Yeah.
Because
But yeah,
can it engage in dialogue? We've been talking a lot about dialogue.
yeah.
Or put it this way, take a simple example, when
Maybe the toy speak like Socrates. So many information about Socrates.
Right.
Thoughts.
Right.
In the toy.
Like a chatbot.
Yeah, yeah.
A Socratic chatbot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can imagine Socrates from the books, from his dialogue.
Yeah.
From the books.
Yes.
Maybe she can imagine something similar from the toy.
Yes.
The toy is like different books. Because the books is much more sophisticated than we think. Even a book is more different layers. Maybe we just can touch it, maybe several layers, but more layers we still can't touch.
Maybe. If the toy becomes a sophisticated chatbot that is programmed on Socrates or Dostoevsky.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Suppose your grandmother passes away, but she has left all of her digital data, all of her emails, all of her social media, recording of her experiences, and created a digital avatar using machine learning so that you're mourning the loss of your loved one, but you can still carry on conversations with her, and so can your children, and so can their children with their great-great-grandmother, and ask her advice, can introduce her to a new boyfriend or girlfriend, ask her opinion. Now, in principle, machine learning, AI-generated chatbots, as they become perfected, could provide a kind of virtual immortality, in which case the line that's being blurred is not only between the virtual and the actual, but between living and not living. What about that? Would you want to speak to the virtual digital avatar of your great-grandmother?
Maybe I will, I guess. I would. Because because in those days we see picture of them.
Yeah?
Their letters.
Photo. Read their letters and remember them.
Yeah, it's still kind of dialogue with the photo, with the letters.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is a kind of dialogue.
Yeah, it's become a new, complicated and a more rich photo and letters. Yeah.
So so virtual immortality, you would welcome virtual immortality?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. I think I will. It's like maybe still about books, the bookshelf.
Yeah.
Around your room, you
Yeah.
can see different names.
Yeah.
Maybe the AI, the robot, the virtual reality. Maybe it's kind of new thing of like books. It's grandma, grandparents, yeah, friends. But
In that case, would we no longer grieve or feel sad when someone dies, a loved one dies?
sure, we have.
But why? If we can continue to know them and speak to them and be with them, then why should we even grieve their passing?
But I think we still can see the very thin line of the different part. That's still a line.
The thin line.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I think.
And if we no longer could even find the line, would that be better? Or worse?
No, I don't think so.
It wouldn't be better.
I don't think so.
Because?
If we human being can't feel loss, maybe part of us will disappear.
Yeah. Yeah.
But some new part will emerge.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But loss is an interesting aspect of humanity. Your intuition that loss is somehow essential to being human.
You're defined by loss, yes, yeah.
By loss, which is connected to memory. Maybe this is another way of describing what would be lost if the line between the virtual and the real were altogether blurred. Well, so what can we do?
So, what's your choice? The same question. What's your choice?
I think there would be a loss.
Will you accept it? I mean,
But would I go to speak to the virtual avatar of my grandmother? Maybe as a curiosity to see how the machine worked, but not thinking that this was being in the presence of my grandmother. In fact, the idea of human presence and why it matters is one of the most important questions posed by new technologies and AI. It's another way of asking the questions we've been discussing just now. What is there about human presence that matters? I've thought about this in connection with teaching because, as you know, we did an experiment some years ago and filmed and put the justice class online.
yeah.
And we did it as an experiment. We did it to show that higher education should be a public resource, not just a private privilege. We had no idea what would come of it. We certainly didn't imagine that tens of millions of people would want to watch it, which is what happened, to watch lectures about philosophy. But it did raise the question then about what am I doing here in Sanders Theater at Harvard? If people can watch online, is there a difference between attending a class or a discussion or a dialogue virtually, online, and in person? And now it may depend on the subject. Some of my colleagues have made attendance at their lectures optional if they have video recorded ones. They say, well, you can watch it and get the content. You can learn the information from the lecture. Sitting at home in your pajamas in bed, as well as sitting in the classroom. I don't see it that way, at least for my subject. because being here, sitting here and listening and engaging and wondering and puzzling and laughing and responding, I see that as something that is very difficult to replicate.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Digitally. And yet, I'm interested in doing more and more experiments to see if we can create platforms for public discourse and dialogue, including global public discourse. I think we should explore that, in part because if we don't do it deliberately, then this entire technological apparatus and social media will simply be what we have today, which is a highly polarizing, mind-numbing, commercially driven form of communication that takes us further and further away from a healthy civic life. So I want to do experiments to create platforms for global discussion using the internet, using new technologies. But I don't think it will ever be possible fully to replace the human presence that learning at its best and dialogue at its best requires. But do you think that's just a traditional old-fashioned view, maybe?
I agree. I totally
you agree with that?
But but it's paradox because you mentioned in a classroom, in a theater.
Yeah.
You mentioned that in one interview said in Beijing, a taxi driver told you he watched your video.
He told a colleague of mine.
Yeah. You know, maybe for the Beijing taxi driver, for that moment, even very long distance from here, but he feel so intimate with your point of view, maybe more than the student here. Maybe. Yeah.
Well, this was a thrilling, when I heard this story, that a Beijing taxi driver had been watching my lectures on justice. And he said his family was watching with him. This, for me, this single story was a reward, one of the greatest rewards I've experienced since we did this project. And so I think it's important to use technology to open access and to promote discussion and learning and mutual learning, and to try to go further to create back and forth dialogue, not just diffusing material, but enabling people to discuss across great distances. And yet, if that were all there was to human connection, then I think we would lose something. I think we would lose something. In fact, I would go further. I think part of what makes watching justice online compelling for that taxi driver in Beijing or anyone else is that what they are watching is not just me standing giving a lecture. They are watching actual engagement in person. And that's part of what makes it compelling.
Yeah,
I think.
You're right. You're quite right. Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Quite right.
Yeah. Even though it holds about 1,000 people, it feels intimate. Do you see what I mean? Because it's banked, and people who are speaking can see one another.
是在里面吧？这进去吗？ James Otis。所以我们在视频上看到就在这儿 ，Justice 那一刻。
Turn the trolley car, if you want to, onto the side track, killing the one, but sparing the five. Here's our first question. How many would turn the trolley car onto the side track? Raise your hands. How many wouldn't? How many would go straight ahead?
So why dialogue, debating is so important for a society?
I don't think it would be morally justifiable, but I'm wondering.
Even then it wouldn't be.
No.
We're all sitting in this room and we have undeserved glory of some sort.
All right, go ahead, you can say.
Cannibalism, I believe, is morally incorrect.
Situation that desperate, you have to do what you have to do to survive.
You to stay there. I want to bring in some other voices and we'll continue.
We try good dialogue, but very difficult. So the situation is so complicated. What kind of solution we can provide?
How many would favor such a law?
Can we take care of everybody?
Yeah, you can, and you should.
You and I, we don't have the same chances when we are born.
And maybe unjust.
Maybe, yeah.
To make sure that everyone using the NHS.
Who thinks it's all right?
Everybody on equal footing. Well, we know that evil exists.
And how could that be fair?
Even facing the same concept like justice, you see the difference from different countries?
Yes. Yeah. How many think it's a good idea reward for the children of medical workers on their college entrance exams? We've struggled more directly and more conspicuously on the stage. How many object to allowing people to buy their way out of military service? Where should the contaminated soil would be willing to accept a preliminary storage site near your home? To hire 100 people to line up to buy train tickets during the Spring Festival. How many think that would be wrong?
How to fight with the trend? It seems unstoppable.
You think it seems unstoppable?
It seems, yeah.
Why do you think?
It's paradoxical.
Well, let me ask you.
No, I don't think so. Maybe not at all.
Would you want to?
But他这么强调对话的重要性，但那个 theater 里面，那墙上都是当时的南北战争时候牺牲掉的哈佛学生，在很多时候，所谓的这样的对话是不可能的。比如在那样的这种争端之中，对话到底能扮演什么样的角色？他也很绝望嘛，这样的一个冲突的时刻。但你又不禁想，是不是这种暴力和冲突本身就是人类对话的无法根除的一种方法？
Here, I have to issue a warning. The reason they're inescapable is that we live some answer to these questions every day.
Absolutely ignoring all international laws.
These questions have been debated for a very long time. In our public life and in our personal lives,
Someone to support us.
philosophy is inescapable, even if it sometimes seems impossible.
Every solution, every theory always has its own flaw.
Yeah.
So how about your solution? What kind of flaw it is?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what flaws have you identified? Let's start with that.
I don't know. Maybe too idealistic.
Too idealistic?
Yeah.
You think so?
I don't know.